The more people that tell you a lie, does that ever make it a truth? What about if that lie was on credible websites? Would that make it more likely to be true? So today we're going to talk about carbohydrate lies. Because if you look up symptoms and signs of carbohydrate deficiencies, you're going to find information that not only is untrue, but it's the complete opposite of what really happens. You'll be told that our brain and our muscles need carbohydrate to function. You'll be told that glucose is the primary fuel that our body prefers, and that when you start cutting out one of the major food groups, carbohydrates, all sorts of very bad things happen, like craving junk food like crazy and crave carbohydrates because you're cutting out carbohydrates. You'll be hungry all the time, which is not good if you're trying to lose weight. You'll start experiencing brain fog and fatigue because you're going to starve your brain of its fuel that it really needs. You may experience mood swings, irritability, hypoglycemic symptoms. When you exercise, your performance will be terrible because you're depleting all of the glycogen, the stored sugar in your muscles. And unless you start consuming things like Gatorade or sugar, boy, you're going to be tired. And the more that you start cutting out these carbs, the more constipation because you're cutting out fiber. And of course, you might experience headaches and bad breath. It's called keto breath. And yes, you may experience some temporary weight loss, but you're really just losing water weight. And with water weight loss comes a loss of electrolytes. And you may start experiencing palpitations and arrhythmias and atrial fibrillation that could lead to strokes. Having a carbohydrate deficiency apparently is very dangerous. In fact, you may even end up with a disease. They talk about the disease being lactic acidosis, right? Well, first of all, that only will occur if you're a type 1 diabetic and you don't take your insulin. Lactic acidosis that comes from ketoacidosis is not even similar to being in ketosis, okay? They're two different things, completely different. One is pathogenic and one is super healthy. And then they might relate ketosis to starvation, because if you starve your body, you go into ketosis. And because starvation is bad, ketosis is bad. What about intermittent fasting? That's different than starvation. Starvation occurs after you lose all your fat, which can take months, okay? And then you're breaking down your muscles. But fasting is really different. When you do fasting, for once, you finally are able to tap in to your own fat, but you'll never tap into fat unless you have a carbohydrate deficiency. So let's talk about the true benefits of a carbohydrate deficiency, which is the opposite of what they say. Okay, number one, you're not going to have any more cravings. Okay, number two, you're going to lose your appetite. You're no longer going to be hungry. Number three, you're going to have wonderful cognitive improvements. Your brain is going to work better. Next thing is your mood's going to be better. If you had depression, if you had anxiety. Now, as far as your performance for exercise, you're going to be able to tap into fat fuel, which is going to allow you to have a better, steady energy, and your exercise is going to be much, much better. It is true that you will lose glycogen while you're on a lower carbohydrate diet. And with a loss of glycogen comes a loss of fluids. Okay. And with that comes a loss of electrolytes, especially salt. So if you're deficient in salt, your performance with exercise is going to be greatly diminished. But all you have to do is take more sea salt and take electrolytes. And any type of fatigue problems or lack of performance will be dramatically improved. Your brain's going to work better. You're going to have less headaches. And as far as bad breath, personally, I have never had bad breath going on the ketogenic diet. I've talked to tens of thousands of people, and it's very rare to have bad breath if you're doing keto correctly. Now, it is true that if you do the dirty version of keto, which basically is you're not paying attention to the quality of food, at a fast food place or whatever, yes, you may have some bad breath. And when you initially adapt to the ketogenic diet, you may also have some bad breath, but it's so temporary. As soon as your body starts burning more ketones and starts to utilize these ketones more efficiently, this is why the tests that they use to measure ketones from your breath and the urine are not going to work once you really get into keto adaptation. So if you're new to keto, this is what you need to know. You have to bring the carbs way down to roughly between 30 to 50 grams per day. Now, let's compare that to what's recommended by all of these websites, okay? The amount of carbohydrates that is normally recommended by the majority of experts is between, now, are you sitting for this? 225 to 325 grams of carbohydrates every single day. That's more than 10 times the amount than what you really need to get into ketosis. It's kind of like lowering your carbs a little bit, but not enough to really tap into your fat. So you are going to feel crummy. You are going to have hypoglycemia. You are going to have a lot of problems. So you must reduce the carbs way down to about 30 to 50 grams, okay, to be able to have this all work. And you must also give it a little bit of time, usually between 2 to 3 days at the very most. But once your body converts over, wow, you will experience benefits that you've never experienced before. Any carbohydrate that your brain requires can be made from non-carbohydrate sources, okay? And the term for this is called gluconeogenesis. Gluco meaning sugar, neo meaning new, genesis meaning the creation of or making of something. You're making new sugar out of fat, ketones, or protein. You don't need carbs. There's no such thing as an essential carbohydrate, but there is an essential fatty acid. In fact, there's really no study that shows or proves that a carbohydrate deficiency leads to anything bad at all. In fact, it's just the opposite. When you restrict your carbohydrates, all sorts of wonderful things happen, especially if you do the healthy version of the ketogenic diet. Now, if you're new to keto and you want to know how to do it healthily, I put that video up right here. Check it out.